start by saying your name and spell it just so we have it on?
My name is Robert Salem. I'm the Chief of Police of the Newcastle City Police Department. Good afternoon. Thank you all for coming. We called this press conference to discuss the Amari Wise case. While we will not go through some specifics of the case, we wanted to call this conference and to answer any questions and put out what information we can. First, I'd like to start by introducing who's up here with me. Our District Attorney, Joshua Lamacusa, who will be prosecuting the case. Our lead detectives in this case, Corporal Fred Buswell and Corporal Halowich. Since June 7th, the NCPD has worked tirelessly to build a case to bring the persons responsible for Amari Wise's death to justice. In that time, there were many obstacles which we had to overcome, including proving a homicide case without a body. The case began as a missing person case on June 6th. The NCPD Criminal Investigation Division began to investigate this case. It quickly turned into a homicide investigation. The primary person of interest in this case was Connor Henry. The detectives were able to gather a lot of evidence throughout this case, which is outlined in the affidavit of probable cause. On June 14th, Newcastle City Police detectives filed criminal charges against Connor Henry for criminal homicide and his father, Todd Henry, for criminal homicide after the fact, obstruction of justice, and tampering with evidence. We believe that Connor Henry was directly responsible for the death of Amari Wise by shooting him, and we believe his father did clean the crime scene and attempt to get rid of Mr. Wise's body. Amari's body was found yesterday over a hillside between Pennsylvania Avenue and Big Run Creek. Pennsylvania State Police forensics team was called in and did collect evidence, and the body was then taken for an autopsy last night. The cause of death was ruled homicide by a single gunshot wound to the back of the head. There have been a lot of false rumors and conspiracy theories that the NCPD had to deal with during the course of this investigation. I'd like to address them in general. While we understand that the community wants answers and wants to know that we are working on this case, we will never give out information during an active investigation that could compromise the case. We did attempt to keep the family informed of what was going on as much as we could, but we're never going to put that information out publicly. I'm proud of the work that was done by our detectives in this case and by the whole department. The body of work is shown in the affidavit of probable cause, and I think that speaks for itself. The end result were the arrests of both Connor Henry and Todd Henry for the senseless act of violence which took the life of 19-year-old Amari Wise. He was a son, father, and relative and friend to many in this community, and we hope that the arrest brings some fraction of closure to his family and friends. At this time, I'll turn it over to our District Attorney, Josh Lamacusa.
Thank you, Chief. I am bound by the canon of ethics as to what I can discuss and what I cannot discuss regarding this case. So I would like to take this opportunity to personally thank the Newcastle City Police Department. Their detective bureau did a fantastic job. They were facing some very extreme circumstances that we don't normally encounter in most cases, and they fought through it. A lot of the things that were occurring in the general public with regard to the protests, the Facebook campaigns that was going on, it all ended up being a very large distraction, but the Detective Bureau for the Newcastle City Police Department kept their heads on their shoulders. They were squared away and they did their job. At one point I asked the detectives to build me a no-body prosecution case. Those cases are extremely difficult. There's been 550 of them in the United States. And prior to yesterday, the Newcastle Police Department and their detectives, they built an excellent case against these two individuals. So I want to take this opportunity once again to thank these detectives and the entire Criminal Investigation Division for the Newcastle City Police Department, along with Chief Salem, who as always has been instrumental in the investigations of all of the cases in the city of Newcastle. We will open it up for some questions.
When you took Todd Henry when he turned himself in and you took him to jail, did he ever sit down and talk with you guys at all, or did he lawyer it up right away? What can you tell us about that?
He requested his attorney. We're not going to get into that directly. We believe it was an argument that started, as it says in the affidavit.
How did you find out where the body was?
The district attorney's office received a tip, and the district attorney contacted our department, and they went down and located the body.
Right, there was a report on the news that the Shenango Township Police found him. Was that accurate?
No, that is not accurate. I received a tip personally. I picked up the phone. I called Corporal Buswell and Corporal Hallowich, told them, please pick me up at my house. They showed up. We drove to the scene and began looking for the body. When Corporal Hallowich found the body, he contacted both Corporal Buswell and myself, who were a little bit further down the stream. We came up and we contacted Chief Salem, who then got in his car and drove to the scene.
I understand that Connor Henry has waived his extradition hearing. When will he be coming back to Lawrence County?
In the next couple of days, we will go down and pick him up. We obviously were waiting to see what he decided today with regard to the extradition hearing, but because he waived it, that speeds up the process, and he should be back in Lawrence County sometime later this week.
Did you have any idea why he was put in that area, or was he there all the whole time? You know, what is your process on figuring out if he was there the whole time, or you saw finding his body there in that spot?
We are not sure if there's a particular reason why the body was placed there. We don't know what that purpose was, or if that location had any particular significance. That's just where we received the information that the body was going to be located.
Do you believe the body was there the whole time?
Yes.
And not hidden or anything?
Well, it was obscured from view. It was not easy to see. You had to know where it was to, or at least had a good idea where it was in order to find it.
Do you believe that's where the crime actually occurred, the shooting?
No, we believe that the facts the facts occurred as we outlined in the affidavit of probable cause. So all of that information is contained in there, and I can't discuss the specific facts of any case that's pending prosecution.
Was there any sign of any further tampering with the body?
We don't have the scientific results back yet, so I can tell you that the body was examined by the police department. It was also examined by the state police, and then was sent for an autopsy at the Beaver Valley Medical Center. So we are pending the actual autopsy report, although I can say that the findings were, it was a fatal gunshot wound to the back of the head.
Did you expect any more arrests, or do you believe you have the two people in custody?
Well,
According to the criminal complaint, there were others in that garage.
an investigation is always ongoing right up until the moment where we pick a jury. As soon as that occurs, then of course the investigation usually ends. So that's the approach that we're going to take in this case, is that the investigation remains open, and we will see where this case takes us.
You going to pursue a first-degree murder charge?
I don't know at this point, because I need to hear the witnesses testify. I don't have to make that decision until the arraignment. I have 30 days at that point. So we're going to see. I'm definitely not ruling it out, though.
With the Ocean City, Maryland police arresting him at that traffic stop, did he do a traffic violation, or were they looking for his particular car or make when they stopped him?
The Newcastle City Police Department, and I certainly don't want to answer if Bobby has better information than I do, but they were always aware of the whereabouts of these individuals. Just because we weren't posting it on Facebook and had a marked unit trailing these people is no indication that we did not know where they are. And if you pause for a moment and you think about it, how would we even know that it was in Ocean City, Maryland, unless we knew? And the police had been pursuing, the police had been following, and we'd been using as many advanced techniques as we could to track these witnesses. I will say that the public interest in this case was good, in the sense that it showed that we have a very strong community in Lawrence County, and that we have a lot of people who care about what happens to their fellow citizens. However, from a law enforcement standpoint, it began limiting a lot of our options. And while the police would never say this, I will say it as the district attorney, it did not help the case. In fact, for the most part, it became a hindrance and took away a lot of the tools that we normally use. Now, I understand that I'm saying that, and some people are going to take that in a negative fashion, but policing is a strange profession. It seems like you can watch it on television, and all of a sudden people think that they know how to police. You don't see that in other professions. No one's calling their doctor saying they need to do the surgery a little bit different, but when it comes to police officers, it seems like everyone knows best. And I would only say that of the 3 men standing up here, and myself not being included in that because I'm not a police officer, was it 50, 60 years of policing experience here? I would hope that the general public would trust our police officers and let them do their job. And I think despite all the obstacles that occurred, they did a fantastic job and built what I believe to be a very good case.
Josh, you mentioned numbers on a no-body prosecution. You mentioned those. Have you ever done that here in Lawrence County under your watch?
Yes, I have. I prosecuted a case that was investigated again by the Newcastle City Police Department. It was a death that occurred, I believe, 1982, 1983. It was Laura Thompson was the young woman, and she had not been seen. I think it was 92. She had not been seen for 2 decades, and we used a lot of techniques to hunt down the 2 offenders, and we prosecuted it in Lawrence County.
And what was, do we know what Connor was doing in Ocean City, Maryland? Is he on the run, or how much categorize that?
I haven't read the reports from the Ocean City Police, so I don't know what they're saying, but we know that he was there, and we knew that we had to arrest him at a certain time.
What kind of vehicle was he driving?
That I do not know. Chief, are you aware of any of these?
It was his family vehicle. It was the secondary family vehicle they had.
Oh, it was.
Yes.
You said you had a strong case for a no-body case in this, but you felt that there would have been enough to get a conviction in this case out of the offenders?
I mean, I believe so, based upon what the police built. Hits all the wickets that are necessary for a homicide prosecution. The fact that we found the body is extremely helpful to the case, but more importantly, I think it provided a measure of closure to the family. Now, sadly, this is never something you want to explain to a family, and the fact that you found one of their loved ones deceased, while that may help the case, that is of no consolation to the family. And for Chief Salem to have to talk to that family and explain to them, that's a horrific assignment for any person. Any other questions? We anticipate arraignment when Connor comes back, and then a preliminary hearing will be scheduled. Typically, preliminary hearings are scheduled in 3 to 10 days. However, depending on COVID at this point, that's impacting a lot of the court operations, but also the availability of defense counsels also may play a role in delaying the timing of the court proceedings. But we will have the preliminary hearing scheduled, and then based upon availability, we will have the hearing.
I didn't get to check. What was the bond on Todd Henry?
There's no bond.
No bond.
Homicide cases
There's no
carry,
bond.
no bond, so they will be incarcerated.
The father as well?
Yes.
Just making sure, so Todd's here, Connor's in Maryland, so.
That is correct. Any other questions? Anything for the chief? Okay. Thank you.